With East Blue leaving me a bit disappointed, I started reading Alabasta, hoping that things are only going to improve from now on. And honestly, a lot of things did. Some stayed the same, but nothing seems to have regressed, which is good. Although there is one thing I just hate with a burning passion, and that's the anime. Having to go through it for the editing of the previous video, I can totally see why there are almost as many episodes as chapters. So, One Piece has trash pacing, Naruto has 1 million flashbacks every episode. I wonder what Bleach did to prolong the runtime, you know, outside of the 10-year hiatus. So, before going to Alabasta, let me switch to something more pleasing to look at. Much better. So yeah, anyways, Alabasta. It managed to fix a lot of my issues from East Blue, from the smoother transitions between arcs to introducing your main villain early in the saga instead of the last second. The quality of the arcs themselves has been greatly improved, with only Reverse Mountain and Little Garden being on the weaker side. Even the sub-villains, Baroque Works, although still nothing special, have the upside of being used throughout the whole saga, so that makes them infinitely more memorable than anyone from East Blue. Not to mention how Crocodile was such a massive improvement as a final boss. I really couldn't believe he was written by the same author who did Arlong. As I stated previously, I love scheming villains, and that may be why I prefer Crocodile so much more. So that is probably scratching my bias a bit, but at the same time, from very early on in the saga, be it from mentions about him from either Vivi or Baroque Works members, or straight up having him be shown either in the shadows or on the phone with someone, he always played a role in the story. We knew who we needed to defeat, and the tension has been carefully built towards our confrontation with him throughout the whole journey. Also, as I said, the swift transitions between arcs was an amazing improvement. It didn't feel like the crew went on a certain island just because the story needed them to be there, but more like a well drawn out line. On Reverse Mountain, we find Vivi, who brings us to Whiskey Peak. From there, we start the journey to Alabasta, and as it turns out, there is a shortcut from Little Mountain. From the prehistoric island, Nami gets bit and falls ill, so we gotta bring her to a doctor. And wouldn't you know it, Drum Island is nearby, and then finally reaching Alabasta. It was an awesome improvement. I really hope this continues in the other sagas. World building also saw major improvements. We already knew that non-human characters existed in this world via the fishermen, but the introduction of the giants and the island stuck in prehistoric time expands the scope of what is possible in this world. If an island where dinosaurs and mosquitoes carrying old fatal diseases that are cured in modern times exist, I can't help but wonder what else there might be waiting for the Straw Hats. This saga also gave me my new favorite arc and my new favorite character, a la Drum Island and Vivi. Drum Island was incredible, with the single downside being Wapo, who is one of the weakest mini-villains in the story thus far. It's not entirely the same, but I felt he was similar to Don Creek, meaning he was there because the arc needed a villain, something that I wish stops happening. Other than that nitpick, everything else was great, to a point where I didn't think I would shed tears about a doctor and his reindeer apprentice / son. Chopper's backstory was the best we have received so far, and I would be really surprised if it manages to get outdone anytime soon. Is Chopper my favorite Straw Hat? No, it's still Sanji, but he really shot up in my rankings. However, even though Chopper stole my heart, Vivi still remains my utmost favorite. From beginning till end, we had so much time to spend with her, it is pretty much impossible for her not to be one of the best, and I mean that in the most positive way I can. Vivi is what I wished Nami was. I wish Nami received this much care during the East Blue saga, so that her eventual betrayal and subsequent backstory could have had the weight they should have, but sadly it didn't. Vivi, however, had such an impact on me that once the saga ended and it was time for the Straw Hats to depart, I really wished Vivi continued to journey alongside them. I hope one day we return to Alabasta so we can reunite with her. The Alabasta saga, however, made me realize realize something that I kind of felt during the East Blue saga, but I wasn't all too sure of it yet. You could say it is a negative, but I enjoyed the side characters a hell of a lot more than the main cast. Characters such as Igram, Peo, Bonclay the Goat, Hirelek and Kureha, even Vivi if you count her as a side character, as minuscule as they might be, all entertain me much more than the majority of the main cast. My hate for Luffy shall never end, but even characters that I liked before, like Sanji and Usopp, were easily outshined by characters that we might not even see again. I don't really know if this is a positive thing due to how amazingly Oda writes the side characters, or a negative for putting your main cast in the shadows. Continuing on with my negatives, Luffy remains obnoxious. He pretty much hasn't changed at all. But outside of that, I am kind of bothered that we don't really know the limits of his power. What do I mean by that? Well, right now, the universal weakness to Devil Fruit users is going into water. That is fine and well, but for Luffy specifically, blunt objects don't damage him due to him being made of rubber. Yet, look at this panel. How was Crocodile able to pierce Luffy with his hook arm? The body of the hook is mostly blunt, and the piercing point is located in an awkward place, where Crocodile wouldn't really be able to hit Luffy normally, especially in the position he is shown to be in here. Outside of that, during his mountain climb, although a really cool moment, I wondered why Luffy didn't just stretch up to the top and pull himself, but I wrote it off as him having a limit. But then, the bazooka attack against Wappo shows us that he has an incredible range. Then, I thought maybe due to the cold, his stretching isn't as effective, since it might be affecting his body. But then, he stretched his neck to save Sanji. The only reason I have left is him not wanting to harm Nami. Is my hate towards Luffy affecting my opinion on the scene? Yeah, probably. But I would like if we get more information on his limits and weaknesses. I am not going to mention plot armor, stuff like surviving Crocodile due to a single drop of water, because every main character has these. I can overlook it. And finally, Oda just does not want to kill any character. I sadly got spoiled, but why is Pale still alive? I already had an inkling he might have survived, because at the epilogue there was a panel of someone holding his bandana and someone screaming that a person should be staying at the hospital, but having it be confirmed just kind of sucked everything good out of the sacrifice. It was a well-written, emotional scene. Why would Oda diminish the impact of it by keeping him alive? 200 chapters later, and I honestly don't feel worried about anyone no matter what happens. His sacrifice being a fake out kinda ruins my experience and pretty much makes me go into future arcs thinking that everything would be fine. Alabasta improved the story in so many aspects, yet is the originator of my biggest flaw so far. Overall, my experience was a lot more enjoyable, and although my opinion that East Blue was too long will never change, Alabasta used every chapter correctly and made me much more interested to keep going with reading One Piece. However, if more fake out deaths happen, I am forever going to refer to One Piece as the Mickey Mouse Show.